Hi guys, it's Melina-Jazmin. Today, I wanted to do a quick little commentary over the speed paint that I just did over the weekend of a still life that I found on Google. Oh, my cat just attacked me from under the bed. Today I wanted to talk about astrology. Now I do plan on doing a series about getting into astrology and learning how to use it for your benefit and learning how to read your chart, and why that's so important. But I just wanted to do a quick video as a little precursor to that, because I find that a lot of people are very confused about their sun sign. Some people either don't relate to the sun sign, or they think their sun sign is the worst because they've seen memes about it. I call the worst signs the most misunderstood signs. There really is no such thing as a bad sign. Like, that's just not how astrology works. Like, each sign has its good and bad traits. Okay, like Gemini is not the only two-faced sign. Every sign is two-faced. Every sign is multifaceted. Whether you're into astrology or not, you can't just go around saying, well, I'm a Virgo and I fucking hate Geminis, so that's just how it's going to be. I've seen so many people who don't really know a whole lot about astrology, but they will absolutely shit on some signs. Like, they'll get their birth chart and then they'll see they have like a Gemini Venus and a Gemini Mars. They're like, oh, absolutely not. This is ridiculous. I really have seen someone do that before. That's just not how it works. Okay. Obviously, your sun sign is kind of the determiner for how the rest of your placements in your chart are going to unfold, because all the other placements in your chart, their energy is directed through your sun sign. Saying all that to say, I think the point of this video, I just want to go over some of the more misunderstood signs, and I want to talk about why they're misunderstood. And immediately, I think everyone can think of a few different signs that come immediately to mind. For me, in my opinion, I've been studying astrology for about 4 years now. And I've seen the general consensus about certain signs, whether it's from people who know about astrology or who don't. I definitely think some of the most misunderstood signs are Scorpio, Gemini, Pisces, and Virgo. So I think these signs are the most misunderstood because out of all of these signs, their archetype is not as straightforward as some of the other signs are. And what I mean by that is, obviously, there's the 12 archetypes in the zodiac. They each represent a different one based off the constellation. But there are some zodiac signs that are just as complex, don't get me wrong, but that tend to just be understood a little better than others. And I think Gemini is definitely on the top of that list. And I'm not just saying that because it's my sun sign. I think a lot of people, when they come in contact with Gemini, if they are not used to mutable energy, if they're not used to air energy, and I would say this probably goes the same for Aquarius too, but more so Gemini, they're not used to that energy. It's so off-putting and it's so confusing, especially if you're an earth sign. And you really just have to kind of look at what the nature of these signs are. Earth signs are stable, they're practical, they're not known for mood swings. Like, that's all air. That's mutable signs. And I think when you have someone who is not well versed in being around the people of that energy, they're gonna have a negative opinion, especially if they have known someone in their personal life with that sun sign. For example, I was best friends with a Taurus for a really long time. She was a very good friend of mine, and we had a really bad falling out. And for a long time, I just did not want to be around any Tauruses. I was like, I can't take this energy, despite the fact that it's my Mars and my South Node. Okay, like, it's you can't run away from any sign. You can't say, oh well, because I've known this one person who did me dirty in the past, I'm not gonna fuck with anyone of that sign. That makes no sense. And you can't generalize the signs like that. And some people may say, oh, well, isn't all of astrology generalizations? No, it's not though. Because you may have the 12 archetypes, those are still not generalizations. That is the variety of the energy that is within our cosmic realm. I don't want to get too esoteric with it, but you really have to understand how the planets influence us, how the stars influence us, how they influence our personality. We always will have free will. That will never be taken away from us. But the planets, astrology alludes to tendencies, mannerisms. So with that being said and out of the way, Gemini's multifaceted quality is very off-putting for some people. But Gemini is a great sign. There's so much to love about it. It's one of the most intelligent sun signs you'll come across, right next to like Virgo. People always want to rag on Gemini about being crazy and wild and having these insane mood swings. And yeah, that is true to some extent. However, I feel like if you truly understand Gemini and the energy, if you have a Gemini that you care about in your life, you'll know that being dominated by Mercury, being ruled by Mercury, is such a blessing. It makes you quick, you're witty, you're a great speaker, quick thinker, can solve puzzles, like you're a great problem solver. Gemini's a great sign. So is Virgo. It's interesting to see how the negative traits of these signs have become more apparent in pop culture, and some signs more than others. Scorpio is another example. Scorpios are portrayed to be these angry scorpions. The scorpion stings. And that is the lowest level of Scorpio is the scorpion. The highest being the phoenix and the middle being the eagle. But again, Scorpio is a multifaceted sign. It's an angry sign because its traditional ruler, its original ruler was Mars. Obviously, this was before Pluto was discovered. Mars was the ruler of Scorpio. So what do we know about Mars? It rules Aries. It's the planet of violence, sex drive, war, mainly war. That's in its mythology. It's the god of war. And that's going to influence the signs that fall under that planet. Now, since Pluto's discovery, more understanding has come about of Scorpio. Now we understand that, well, no, it's not just this kind of reactionary sign, because it's very much a water sign. It is not a fire sign. Scorpio, she's mysterious. She has so much depth. She's obsessed with death. She's all about the occult. Like that Scorpio, it's a great sign. It's one of my favorite signs. It's my rising sign. I identify a lot with Scorpios. So who's next? Pisces. So Pisces, being ruled by Neptune, is gonna make the influence of this sign not only very watery, but very misunderstood, very mysterious, very dreamlike. Like, in my opinion, I think Pisces, if you know a Pisces, I think they're kind of impossible to truly know, simply because, it's the two fish swimming in the pond. They're just ever changing, and they change a little differently than the way that, say, Gemini does, or that Libra does. Like how, mutable signs change. Pisces kind of lives in his own dream world, and I mean, that right there is kind of a clue in for why it's so misunderstood. It's also the sign that's connected the most to drugs and alcohol, and this is because of Neptune. And this is very much true to an extent. Neptune, badly aspected Neptune and afflicted Neptune can cause someone to be dependent on drugs and alcohol. Think of the key word here is escape. That's Neptune. That's Pisces. Escape. They're never really in reality. They're in this dream world, and that's very much what drugs and alcohol do for us. They're an escape. And a lot of times people kind of want to pin this on Pisces and all Pisces placements, but it's just simply not true. In reality, Pisces is one of the most artistic signs next to the signs that are ruled by Venus. It is a very mystical sign. I personally believe in esoteric astrology that people with sun sign in Pisces have lived lives as every other sun sign that there is. And because of that, Pisces has really powerful, or is very powerful in the occult, and they have very prophetic dreams. Pisces dreams are so important. If you're Pisces, I really encourage you to journal your dreams. I really, really encourage you. You might find some answers in there. Or, Pisces, especially Pisces moons, are able to go to like the farthest depths of our reality and other realities in their dreams. Last but not least is Virgo, another really misunderstood sign. I've seen more than one professional astrologer say that they felt like Virgo was the most complex sign in the zodiac. And I have to say, I think I'm starting to agree. At first, when I first started researching astrology, I didn't understand Virgo's energy. It was the last sign that I was studying, and I just didn't really get it, which is kind of weird considering, my sun sign shares a ruling planet with Virgo, and that's Mercury. At this point now, I definitely feel like I understand Virgo a lot more, especially because I know quite a few Virgos. I know a lot of Sun in Virgos and Virgo risings and Virgo moons. As a matter of fact, my best friend's girlfriend, she has a very interesting chart. She is a Pisces sun with a Virgo moon and a Virgo rising. And it's so interesting to see how the Virgo energy kind of overtakes a lot of things. Of course, not everything, but Virgo, like I said earlier, similar to Gemini, very quick-witted, very intelligent. The difference between Virgo and Gemini is, one of my favorite astrologers, Astrolocherry, said this, I believe. She had did a piece about how Gemini is the magician in the zodiac. Gemini can make things kind of appear with his words, and it's all about illusion, but Virgo is actually the one that does all the research and produces the show. This is all metaphorical, obviously. So she was saying that Virgo is perhaps the real magician, and this is why Mercury is not exalted in Gemini; it's exalted in Virgo. And yet Virgo is often interpreted as being too methodical, too picky, overly critical. And honestly, I was guilty of this one. For a long time, I was interpreting Virgo that way. But again, like I said in the beginning, each sign is multifaceted. Each sign has its good and bad traits. Saying all that to say, this is why certain signs excel at certain things than others. This is why certain planets work better with certain signs. This is why certain planets are exalted in certain signs. Certain planets are in detriment or in fall. It all depends on the element that rules that sign and what is the nature of that sign. Is it cardinal? Is it fixed? Like, is it air? Is it water? Is it fire? Is it earth? That is all very important to know and will help you to understand your sun sign better. Now, I mentioned earlier that I have also noticed that a lot of people will kind of downplay astrology simply because they may not relate to their sun sign. And I actually saw a great post about this on Tumblr the other day by another astrologer. And she said that it's just not a very good argument because the sun sign, while it does represent the ego, the sun sign represents our ego, and it is also who we want to be in life. We are not born being our sun sign. A lot of astrologers would actually argue that when we're children, we actually exhibit our moon signs more than anything. But I digress. You grow into your sun sign. So if you are in a place in your life where you are not very confident, you don't really know yourself, you have no direction, you don't know what you believe in, you may not relate to your sun sign. But again, this is why knowing the whole chart is so important. This is why pop culture astrology sun sign astrology, that's why it's bullshit. That's why people will defend not believing in astrology based off of what's in pop culture. And that is just so utterly ridiculous to me. Astrology is a science. It is a tool. It is not that far off from astronomy. It is not that far off from any other science that you can learn and practice and utilize and refer to. So knowing your whole chart will help you understand all of the energy that is involved in your life. You know, if you by some chance don't relate to your sun sign, I really heavily encourage you to get a natal chart reading. If you don't know your birth time, you can still do just your birthday and where, but the time is very, very important. I think I'll do another video on that, on why the exact birth time is so critical in astrology. But do a birth chart and see what other signs are coming into play. Like, for example, me, I have a Gemini sun and an Aquarius moon and a Scorpio rising. So I'm very inquisitive, I'm curious, I'm talkative, I hunger for knowledge, but at the same time, my Aquarius moon, like, I am a loner. I'm not as outgoing as, you know, the kind of typical Gemini archetype is. I very much prefer my privacy, and that's the same with my Scorpio rising. And despite that, it is still channeled through the Gemini energy. So you always have to remember that no matter what the rising sign is, no matter what your Venus sign is, your Pluto sign, any of those, it is all being channeled through the sun sign. And that is why, arguably, it is the most important position in the chart. So that's about it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in, and make sure you look out for the astrology series that I'm about to upload onto YouTube very soon. Bye bye.